So I have a piece of scrap chipboard, and our final measurement is going to be 3 by 5. Change my blade that I use for chipboard. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that down 3 by 5. 3. Hold on one second. We're going to make a frame that's going to be about 1/2 inch. So let's do, I apologize, let's do 3.5 by 5. Now, when I decided to do this size, I measured from this inseam to this inseam, and mine will just fit inside there. So go ahead, if you have a different template than mine, measure yours that this size is going to fit for you. But for my purposes, I'm doing 3.5 by 5. We're going to have a little bow tie up here, so I don't want it to come too high to get in the way of the bow tie. Alright, so that's 3.5. Alright, we need a 1/2 inch border all the way around, so I am going to take my Martha Stewart . And then I'm going to cut that out. Sorry if my head gets in the way. I need to see this line. You can use your cutting board, or like I do, or you can use your X-Acto knife, whichever you find easiest. This is going to be covered up with fabric, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect in your corners. See if mine didn't go all the way through. A couple of spots. Do it like this. I have some little scraps of batting. And I'm going to take my glue And we're just going to put this around. Alright, I believe I'm going to use the black fabric to wrap this with, so go ahead and grab your fabric that you want to use. Alright, so grab some little straps of batting. I'm going to take to wrap this with, so go ahead and grab your fabric that you want to use. So I have my scrap, and I'm just going to cut that out. Now that we have the outside done, we get to do the inside. So I'm just going to take my scissors to the center and just poke it, make a little cut. Then I'm going to go around about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch around the inside of the whole thing. Now we need to cover this back part. When you slide a photo behind here, I don't want anything to catch on the back. So, trying to find the lid to my glue. There it is. So I just have this little piece of cards, or actually that was in the middle of the packing for the fabric. So I'm going to go 1/16, whoopie-doos, 1/16 before you get to the 5" because we don't want to be able to see the inside. And exactly, that's how big mine is. And the 3.5, I'm going to go 1/16 inside of that. If y'all can see there. That way when we put this together and flip it over, we won't be able to see it. Okay, so I'm just going to take a pencil and go around the inside. Put that back on my cutting board. And what we want to do also, because we need this to be smaller, I'm going to cut just inside of, okay. So here's my line, so I'm going inside further a little bit so it won't show after we put this on the back. And if it's not cut perfectly, don't worry about it, because no one's ever gonna see it. Alright, see how I did. Alright, so I have mine. We'll check it, see how it fits. And look like I'm good. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. I'm just using regular glue. Check the front before you let your glue dry. And I got a piece of glue there that I need to try and get off, but when you grab your well, leave enough room for our bow tie. Mine's pulling a little bit. I was going to try and put a button there, but I may just have to end up gluing it because I believe that's where we need to fall. Bow tie up here. And then we'll make the opening on the side here because you won't be able to get at it from the top with the bow tie in the way. Yes, that is what we are going to do. Well, I don't have enough black fabric left. like I was going to do. So I found these two. I'm going to do the solid color for the larger bow, and then put the polka dots on top of it with the coordinating, because they're close to the same color. And I found some, actually these little baby blossoms I got from Wild Orchid Cribs. I just got them like 2 days ago. So perfect timing, those match. And then I have some white ones. And then these little mini ones has close, that y'all probably can't see that very well with the shiny paper. But let's start with the fabric that you're going to use on the bottom bow. We're going to stack them. The bottom bow is going to be 4 inches and the top bow is going to be 3.5 inches. So for the 4-inch on the bottom, we need to cut a piece of fabric that is 9 by 7. Let's see. Right, and then for the top fabric that you're going to use, we will also need a small piece that is 2 by 3. which I believe I'm just going to use this one. 3. Okay, mine's 3 by 3. I'm going to leave it like that. I can adjust it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric. I'm just going to show this before I go to the ironing board. And this is the 9-inch side, long ways, and we're going to fold it in half and just press down to make somewhat of a crease on it. And then we're going to open up, and I know I have a lot of folds on mine, but I'm looking at this middle crease that I just made. Now I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to put it just about 1/4 of an inch over this little crease. So just barely over it. And then I'm going to take my top piece and same thing. I'm going to fold it about 1/4 of an inch over that crease that I just made. Now my iron is in another room, so I'm going to go and iron this down, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece. We are going to fold it in half, make a crease, pull up the bottom to just about 1/4 of an inch over the crease, and then pull down the top. Same thing, about 1/4 of an inch over my crease. And then I'm just going to iron all of this down, and then I will be back. I have mine stitched down, and now excuse me, now that I'm looking at this, it's kind of setting a little bit too high, so I'm just going to pull apart this hot glue, which luckily is very easily, and try to get this top bow down lower. I want to keep my shape, but I want it to go down a little bit lower to set with the bottom. Alright, so I have mine, I believe, how I want it. So now we take this piece, I'm going to flip it over, make sure I'm in the center. I'm just going to put a dab of glue here and attach one end there. Then we're going to flip them, adjusting along the way. I'm just going to hold this down until I get them how I want it. Then I'm going to pull it snugly, put some more glue down, and any extra fabric we will just trim the end. Yeah, oh, that's hot. So just work with it the best you can. Get your little pleats together. And I'm just going to trim the excess. And if you have to, go ahead and put glue in spots to keep it together and flat. So I finally got mine, I believe. I ended up having to use a lot of hot glue. I have the polka dots attached to the back piece, and then you could see my glue here where I put hot glue, and then I pinched to make the edges ruffle together, and then I did the same thing to put the polka dot to the back, and I did that on both sides to accentuate that ruffle. Let me put a little bit more here. I just put it down and then just pinched it together, try and create that ruffle. So this will be our bow tie. Still not locking, I'm not liking the wrap here. I don't think there's anything else I can do to fix that. I'll look at it later. So we have our bow tie to judge how far we need to come down. And on mine, I don't know if y'all can see, I want to be able to show where this side and this side of the like tuxedo jacket meet. And we are going to be leaving this side open so you can put a photo from there and not from the top, because this little thing is going to be in the way. So I believe we're going to do something like this, and then we'll put our flowers on, but my bow is still bugging me. It's wider on this side than that side, so I'm going to fight with that a little bit more, but I do have an idea of where I want to put this guy. Make sure that he's in between the two ends and it's not hanging over. So I'm going to go ahead and get my fabric tack and glue that down. So I'm going to glue the three sides. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all. I had gotten glue on the top of mine, my frame here, when I was putting it together. And I found out that fingernail polish remover takes glue off of fabric. I didn't know that. I guess I'd never really needed to know that. So I got most of the glue off. Okay, so I'm going to put my bow right here just to make sure. I don't mind if the tips of my bow kind of cover this part. And I'm checking between on the sides, making sure that the side that doesn't have any glue is over here on my left. I'm sorry, I gotta lift it up to take a look. I think that's gonna work out well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a book, And I'm just going to set it on there just like that. And I'm going to give it about 30 minutes to an hour and let that adhesive dry real well. And then I'll be back. Alright, for both albums, the Little Girl and Boys album, I'm using this chipboard piece that says Love You by Scrap FX Wordlets. I got these at shopaholic.com. And I'm going to cover the face of it with this Nouveau Crystal Drops. I don't know if it says, this one is Caribbean Ocean. It's about the closest I could get. I have these dark blue ones, but I don't think that's going to go well. So I'm staying in this color shade. Mine is dry enough, and we are going to go ahead and cover the back and put our little frame kickstand. So I have my template, and I'm going to use black. Now make sure whenever you're doing your template, this is the back. So when I made this, hi Gracie, I had the template facing me, or the word template facing me. So I want to turn it over and trace it that way because it's going on the back. Maybe I could show you. So if you traced it this way and tried to put it together, can you see how it will not line up? And believe me, I learned this the hard way. I kept making them. I kept cutting out the chipboard with an X-Acto knife, which isn't fun. But also, now I'm saying this, those big scissors that you get, like if you buy one of those big blocks of knives for your kitchen, the scissors that are inside there will cut chipboard and make this easier for you. But anyway, so I'm cutting out all this chipboard and they're not lining up because I'm not flipping it over. So yeah, I learned that one the hard way. So I am going to flip it over and trace it out. And then this is just a black heavy cardstock. Check in the corner of your arm. See, you can see that little bit of white right there because that fabric is so hard to pull. And then I have a little bit of white right there. I am going to just take a marker. You can do two things. You can take a marker and color it and they won't see it. Or you can just tear off a little tiny piece of fabric and glue it right there. I'm going to see if maybe this will help. We'll flip it over, make sure you can't see anything. Alright, so I have a piece of chipboard, and mine is not even a quarter, like 2 1/8. So let me make that 2 inch. I'll tell you what, we need one that's 7 inches, so I'm going to do that first. 7 inches. By 2 inches, your first piece. Okay, so 7 by 2, and then we need another piece that's 1.5 by 1. So there's my 1.5. By 1. I don't know which one it was. Was it this one? Okay. 1.5 by 1. Now what we want to do is, it's going to be tapered, so we need 1.5 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So I'm just going to take my ruler, and I'm measuring from the left over 1.5 inch and make a little mark. And then I'm going to put my ruler on that mark and on the corner down here and draw a line. And then put that back on my cutting board. And just put that line where your cutting board goes across. Let's stop. And there we have tapered. And this little guy is going to go at the top there. So grab some cardstock. This doesn't have to be black. You could have used any cardstock that you wanted. We are covering it. I have this handy, so I'm gonna, actually I don't know. Where'd my black go? Oh yeah. Okay, let me grab some. I need to make 2, sorry about that guys, 2 hinges. So I'm going to cut it 1 inch by 1.5, and I need 2 of those. I have the wrong cutter on here, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, you can take and score it at 1/2 inch. I'm just going to fold mine over. I'm just going to make sure it matches my 1.5 inch piece, and I need to trim it a little bit. So I'm going to open, I'm going to put glue on this inside. Then I'm going to take, this is the 1.5 inch side, put it up to that score line. Then I'm going to put glue on the other side. And put our 1 by 1.5. I want this hinge to be sturdy, so I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. So I have glue on one side of the hinge. I'm going to put it on our long 7.5 inch side. And then put glue on the other side of the hinge and fold it over to this smaller 1.5 inch by 1 piece. Alright, I'm going to let that dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover one side with fabric and the other side with just cardstock. Now this little hinge is going to get pretty tight once you dry, and it may kind of bubble on one side, but that's okay. It's going to be covered up with the fabric on one end, and then this is going to be attached to the back of this on the other side. It's just, I made one without putting these two hinges, and it was really loose. So I'm going to get a piece of fabric. I want to do black. I don't know if I have enough left. Yes, I have enough left. Now I'm putting fabric over the whole thing. Or I say the whole thing, one whole side, but all the way, the hinge and the little piece and the big piece too. And I'm just giving about 1/4 to 1/2 inch overhang with my fabric. Wow, I'm really cutting this one rough. I have a fold in mine, so I'm going to go ahead and iron that out real quick. Now I'm going to take a black cardstock, and I should have done this before we put the fabric on. Trace it out, and I only need to go to where, only need to go to the bend here. We do not have to put anything behind this 1 by 1.5 piece. I apologize for that. I should have had you guys do it before we put the fabric on. So I'm putting it where that hinge is, the center between the two. Tracing it. My cat just stepped on my printer. So that's what the noise is. Now say, cat, what are you printing? Alright, so I want it to be a little bit smaller than where I traced it, so I'm going to put the cut just barely inside that line I just traced. I'm going to change my cutter, because this is my chipboard cutter and it will shred that paper. I need a cleaner line. Alright. Yeah, Gracie, what's up? And then same thing on this one. I want to go in just inside of the line. And I'll just check that out. Mine looks good. I'm going to trim this top just a little bit. And I think we'll be okay. Actually, I can see it just a little bit on this side. I'm going to trim it. Just a hair. Alright. So I'm going to check one more time before we glue it down. I ended up cutting mine crooked. Alright, so let's glue this piece down. Gracie, don't do it. No. Alrighty then. Alright, we have that covered up. I don't know what I did with the top. I'll just grab a different one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, on our little 1.5 by 1, I'm going to make 2 marks centered, top to bottom centered, and about 1/4 of an inch from the side. So I'm going to kind of eyeball the top to front, the top to bottom centered, but I am going to make a little mark, if I can see it. Where's my, and then this one also I want it even across, and I think that part's too high. So I'm going to take my punch my We Are memory keepers and cut those two pieces out, or those two marks. And sometimes the fabric doesn't cut all the way. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to grab two. I have black. I don't have any big black ones. I'm just going to use a pewter colored. So it's these little pins. I can't remember what you call them right now. Like such. So what I want to do is, this is our template. What we want to do is, on the bottom, I want to center this. It is going to hang over on each side, but I want to center it as much as possible. And then put that down. And then I'm going to make a mark. And just to make sure that just to make sure that I have it, I'm going to hold that down and pull it up and check it out. And I think that's going to be a good place for it. Alright, so we are going to put these guys in. I wish I had black. Let me see if I can paint these, or maybe I'll have some in another container. I put about 3 coats of black acrylic paint, drying in between each coat. So there's the marks that we made. So I'm just going to hook my little Tim Holtz hooker through it. And again, I'm going to line up on the bottom. Make sure it's even. Alright, now when I put this other one in, I'll make sure it's lined up on the bottom. That turned out really well. Okay. My glue. I can't forget my glue. We need to glue this inside part. Just a little 1.5 by 1 inch piece. Don't want to put too much to the edges so it didn't seep out, which is what I hope I've done. And mine did exactly what I hoped it wouldn't do. I seeped out. There we are. Oop, I got out of line. Make sure my alignment's at the bottom. Almost missed that. And I'm just going to press on it to give time for that glue to adhere. There we are. I'm just going to put some hot glue on the inside here. And just press it down with my bone folder. Alright, now we get to put it on the back. I'll flip him over. Oh my goodness, I forgot to check. I hope I got the right side. I think I did because there's my pencil marks. Alright. First off, I'm going to erase my pencil marks from when I traced it. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac around the outside edges. Not going too close to the side so it doesn't run out. Grab you some clips. I'm just going to put this on the inside. All right. Alright, I'm going to put some clips on these edges for the top part. I'm just going to put it on the very edge. I'm not going to leave them there very long. I'm going to go all the way around. By the time I come back around again, I'll start taking them off. It's too tight. Well, it looks like my paper is showing a little bit, so I'm going to trim that. Being careful not to cut my fabric and only cut the piece in the back. Ooh, that one's tight. It's too tight. Start taking them off. I'll put it over here. All right. I know this I seem quick with these things, but I don't want it to mark up. But I think it's done its trick. Yeah. Now we have a stand. Now if you have trouble with yours standing upright like this, if it's like going back, take a ribbon and put it on the little flap thing and then attach it to the back of your frame, and that way when it's closed the ribbon will just fold, and then when you open it it'll keep this one from moving back too far. Alright, I think next we can go ahead and put on, I got fuzz all over this thing. I don't think I'm going to work with black again. Maybe like ever. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my bow tie on. Try and center it in that neckline. And I'm going to let it kind of hang over the frame that we put down. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, but be careful that you don't want it to ooze out. Actually, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac and hot glue. So I'm going to put Fabri-Tac on the inside a bit on the bow. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue so it'll hold while waiting for that other glue. Let's see, I'm going to have to pick it up so I can center it correctly. Okay, I'm just going to hold that down for a little while, and then we will move to putting our flowers and decorating the rest of the front. So I believe I have everything placed where I want to put them. I'm going to start with some glue and put down the I love you. I have mine completely finished. I have all of my little flowers in place. I have my little love you, and I got some fingernail polish and got off that extra glue that I had on it. So now we could take a photo and just slide in behind there. Got my bow tie finally how I want it. And then of course it can always sit up for somebody to display their picture. So I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions, please just leave me a comment below, and please also hit that subscribe button, and so you can see some future videos. I will see y'all again later. Bye.